recording, so I'm going to reply to this Barbarossa video. Okay, so let's get going. So let's put some historical context in here. This is from 11 years ago, so this will be 2014 when Barbarossa was still going, and he talks about a problem that we still face now, the MRA concern troll, right? And now that MGTOW sort of died off and it's become irrelevant, and the men's rights movement is in a worse position than ever, it's more stagnant than ever, these problems are more prevalent than ever, unfortunately. So let's get on with it.
I'm going to talk briefly today about the psychology and tactics of the pseudo-MRA concern troll. One of the things that I notice with these people, if you take notice, the concern troll hates any generalizations that are made about women from men going their own way.
So actually, before I start, they do hate generalizations, it's absolutely true, but let's go to my Reddit account. Okay, go to messages. Okay, go to threads. Okay. So this is a conversation I have with someone from a subreddit with a no misogyny rule. Okay, a men's rights Reddit with a no misogyny rule, a smaller one. Legit, women talk about killing men openly, and you have an anti-misogyny rule. This is the road to loserdom. Two wrongs don't make a right. We don't have to drop to the level of the people we criticise, right? It's not two wrongs. You're a disgusting and a sellout. You're a feminist and you validate the false feminist concept of misogyny. Vomit. And I linked to the Barbarossa video I'm going to review now. So, there's no such thing as misogyny. This scumbag wants to validate misogyny, a feminist concept. Right? I didn't realise this was so old. Right? Okay. But this scumbag wants to validate a feminist concept. And when you point it out and object to them doing so, they accuse you of sinking to the level of the feminists, or the people who criticise. Right? Legit, women talk about killing men openly, they do. And these losers got an anti-misogyny rule. Okay. Okay.
But if you really look at how they behave and the exceptions they make to this, it becomes apparent that it's not actually generalizations about women that they hate. It's the unflattering ones that they have a problem with. You see, when it's...
So I was banned from the Everyday Missionary subreddit because I complained about the fact they removed my message. I made a message about women. Women were calling men insecure, and I just said that women are in no position to call men insecure because they wear makeup, right? And that got removed for misogyny. I was called misogynist saying it, which pissed me off, and I argued with the mods and I got banned, right? So if I made a positive generalization about women, they wouldn't care.
It's their agenda. They most certainly...
And women do, for the vast majority of women, do wear makeup. It's a very common thing. So lots of women are insecure. Period.
Don't have a problem generalizing women.
The thing is, generalizations are absolutely fine, right? There's two types of people in this world. People who generalize and the people who generalize and lie about it.
Let's take, for example, this oft-repeated generalization, which happens to be true in many respects. But you'll often hear them say that the men's rights movement needs women because women can get away with saying things that men can't without being called misogynists. And this is correct. Women do generally have much more leeway than men when they're saying these things. But one has to wonder, how did these individuals, these concern trolls, so allergic to generalizing women and gender at large, arrive at this conclusion?
Now, a lot of these concern trolls, MRA concern trolls, will generalize men in the Middle East, right, and call them abusers of women. They'll do it gladly, right? Or they'll generalise left-wing men, right, for example. Or they'll generalise liberals or other groups of people, but you can't generalise women. Okay. It's very weird that the men's rights movement's actually like this.
Well, it's simple, really. Generalizations that highlight good things about women are quite alright with these pseudo-MRA concern trolls. He or she has no problem looking how the genders interact, seeing that women viciously attack and shame men that call them out on their bullshit, he or she notices they immediately resort to ad hominem attacks and says that he just can't get laid, or that he's bitter, or that he's angry, etc.
So this was before the term incel was common, right? So that's what they used to say before the term incel. The term incel is more low effort. It's more shorthand as a thought terminate cliche and dismissal. It's a signal to dismiss, right?
So they do, in fact, notice the litany of insults and deflections used against men by a non-trivial and I dare say even majority of women when dealing with these arguments. You see, the concerned troll observes that. They make that generalization and they depend on that generalization to make use of a female MRA to bypass those attacks. And that's the hypocrisy of it all, you see. Deep down, these concerned trolls know that these generalizations actually have credibility and merit behind them, but only chooses to acknowledge them when it flatters women and makes it seem as though women have this special ability that men don't have. And this is a failing.
So they're more sensitive to insults to women than they are to men, because the men's rights Reddit will legitimately let misandrists in and spew venom. They'll let feminists in to spew venom, but if they think you're a misogynist, they'll ban you. Yeah?
Strategy on so many levels that it's hard to decide where to start. But for one, the pseudo-MRA concern troll props up the impunity that a female MRA enjoys as being indispensable to a men's rights movement without mentioning the fact that the only reason she enjoys that impunity are reasons surrounding contributing factors to feminist power and gynocentrism. Now,
there's no such thing as gynocentrism. I reject gynocentrism theory, right? It's better to call it female supremacy, but this was 2014. Even I believed in gynocentrism back then. I hadn't yet rejected the theory. I sort of turned against it like 5 years ago, right? But only did a video against it recently, calling it out.
I'm not saying that there aren't some female MRAs that make credible, intelligent contributions to the men's movement. I'm saying that going out of your way to prop up female MRAs to show the blue pill masses, that look, we have women on our side too, that can actually help to reinforce the cultural attitudes that allow feminism and misandry to persist. You see,
female MRAs have proven to be useless, right? So I'd use them if they were useful, but they're not very easy to manipulate or control or use, or you to help them, get you to help you or us as a group, men, right? So they're just like basically a waste of energy to engage with, to be honest. I wouldn't necessarily say like we have to shun them or ban them, but just don't expect anything from them.
When we start seeing female MRAs receive the same scrutiny as male MRAs, when we start seeing blatant attention whores who don't put out quality videos and...
Yeah, there's quite a few female MRAs, like Roma Army, just pearly things, and there's a few other ones as well. There's like these like nice, friendly trad women with nice, pretty smiles, and they show concern and sympathy for men, and the men lap this up. So men don't want their rights; they just want female attention and female sympathy. I want my rights, right?
And think being a female MRA consists of nothing more than just saying, I'm not a feminist, and then repeating verbatim something Barbarossa or Man-Woman Myth or Stardust or Girl Writes What said years ago. When women like that stop getting unearned praise and subscriptions and attention in the manosphere, then we'll know we're truly making progress. Until then, we're at best only slightly better than our pussy groveling blue pill counterparts.
Okay, so yes, let's put the red pill terminology aside. He's basically saying until we get past groveling to women, we haven't made any progress. And 11 years later, we haven't. Yeah?
Now, I still remember the whole Woolly Bumblebee fiasco, bitching on and on about men going their own way and how bitter and mean and abrasive we are. And
Woolly Bumblebee was a scam artist who pretended to be an MRA and ripped the men's rights movement off.
Blah, blah, blah. Over and over, you heard this insufferable twit bitching and bitching about radicals and Barbarossa and Stardust.
So you get insufferable twits in the men's rights movement bitching about radicals right now. See, the behaviour hasn't changed, basically. The deflection, thought terminating cliches. These people within our movement, or so-called movement, are here to disrupt us and hold us back. They're just as hostile to us as any feminists, and they're worse, because they're the enemy within.
And one of the things that she did was to hide behind her little Earl Silverman Center project, propping herself up on that to look like she was the great doer of the men's rights movement.
So Elle Silverman's someone who committed suicide, trying to raise money for men's shelters, right? And he got himself into debt over it, right? And then he committed suicide, and no one cares, basically. And people trying to like martyr him and rub it in people's faces and say, look, you should feel guilty about this. The problem is you're dealing with feminists who are absolute psychopaths and they want men dead, right? They want you dead. So it's a waste of time doing this posturing. I've got sympathy for Elle Silverman. It's a tragedy, but our enemies don't care, right?
Behold, this is a woman of action. And how dare those evil, evil men going their own way generalize the poor, poor women in men's rights circles. Fast forward to present day, and what did we actually see happen? No Earl Silverman Center in sight. She seems to have just pocketed over $6,000 she collected expressly for the Earl Silverman Center.
So, yeah, she ripped everyone off, basically. And the men's rights movement let her get away with it because we're meek, passive punching bags. So she saw this loser movement full of meek, passive punching bag men and decided to rip them off. She was a hustler who smelt a soft target, right? Like a shark smelling blood in the water.
And essentially has cut all ties with the men's movement altogether. And these
Yeah, she was just talking about what extremists we are after she ripped us off. Yeah?
sniveling pseudo-MRA manginas that were supporting her, bashing men going their own way, they're now all pretending that they didn't support her in the first place and waiting quietly for the next attention whore to come along, just so they can show their little blue pill massa what a good little MRA house slave they are, and just how willing they are to throw men going their own way under the bus just for a dollop of approval from the very people who call MRAs misogynist every chance they get anyway. It's bootlicking of the highest order. And what these people really want to do is to take, for example, the YouTube manosphere community.
We're not part of the manosphere. That's one mistake they made, was using that label. Right? We're not part of the manosphere. We're the Pro-Male Collective.
And bitch and nag and complain until it resembles something like the men's rights Reddit, which, if you've been paying attention, has become the most deballed, co-opted, and censored places in the manosphere, where so-called egalitarians want to tell us men, after 50 years of sustained attack, before which we were beasts of burden for the very women and feminists currently attacking men, they see fit to tell us that we should cooperate with feminists now. You know.
So this feels very current, what he's saying right now, because it's still the same thing. So Men's Rights Reddit just randomly removes posts. Anything that gains traction and raises awareness against feminists, it gets removed. Right? It seems to get removed. Yeah? Okay? And I've been banned twice from there. Right? Okay? And it's controlled opposition as well. Because some of the decisions to make removing posts is very, very fucking weird. Very weird. I don't even remember there was a post celebrating Bill Cosby being found innocent a while back, and they removed that as well. Okay, so it's controlled fake opposition, and it's been like that for over a decade then.
Why are we so angry? And two wrongs don't make a right, of course, and all of this.
He's going to say something wonderful in a minute. This is why I used to look up to Barbarossa. He's a very eloquent, articulate person.
Horseshit pisses me off to no end. Two wrongs don't make a right. Really? That's bullshit. If someone slaps you across the face, you kick their teeth in. If someone punches you in the face, you beat them unconscious. If someone pulls a knife on you, you pull out a gun and you kill them. These are examples. These are all examples of how aggressing harder against an aggressor stops the aggression. And it is
perfect.
Indisputable at this point that the state, women, feminists, and their mangina politicians and tradcon chivalrists aggress against men first. Now that we're aggressing back, non-violently, mind you, a luxury which you can't say for the entities that attacked us in the first place.
Yeah, because they're using structural violence against us, right? Okay, so the amount of structural violence that men have suffered under feminism, colonized countries have revolted and gone to war with their oppressors over, right? Okay, we are a colonized, oppressed sex, right? Feminists are neo-imperialists.
But yeah, now that men are starting to aggress back by talking amongst themselves about women, about these fake-ass politicians, about your daddy government.
So men talking about these problems and doing something about it is going to be seen as violence because it's counter violence. It's defense. It's defensive. So what we need to do is we need to organise politically, coordinate, and dismantle the structural violence that's directed against men. We face structural violence on an unprecedented scale. Never has a group done more for someone, but at the same time been more oppressed than men. Men have done so much for women, and we just get more abuse over it. Yeah. So the feminists are going to see our defence as violence against them. They feel they've got the entitlement to commit structural violence against us, right? So us stopping that is going to be deemed as illegitimate violence by them, but it's totally legitimate. It's defensive.
Now you want us to sing "We Are the World" and kiss and make up. Where were you 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 decades ago? Where were you and your mothers telling feminists that 2 wrongs don't make a right? Where were you? You said nothing. You did nothing. Now men are doing something about it, and these concern troll twits come clucking onto men going their own way channels, even though we've clearly said numerous times that we ally with MRAs, but we're not MRAs. But even
There's this weird split between MGTOWs and MRAs, which I'm not really going to go into, right? Both sides were wrong, right? The men's rights movement was a failure. It was a Tradcon failure, and MGTOW wasn't the correct reaction to the failure of the Tradcon MRA. So both sides were wrong. And MGTOW devolved and got worse, right? So the good MGTOW content like this soon disappeared.
still, these insufferable parakeets come onto men going their own way spaces, clucking what has to be manufactured on an industrial scale in some cookie cutter warehouse somewhere. They come clucking the same old recycled, reused garbage that we've heard a million times before, capped in a neat little bow tie with your generic appeal to sing Kumbaya now and hold hands and we are the world. It's not going to fly this time. It's not going to fly this time. Go to Men's Rights Reddit, where you can have some castrated fake MRA tell you how wonderful you are simply for having a uterus and uttering the phrase, you don't like feminism. Go to the drying up tradcon portion of the manosphere with that bullshit. Go to the cult of Defeat the Left, where they earn 10 subscribers a week because people are tired of hearing repackaged Glenn Beck excerpts. Go let them shower you with attention because you're a housewife or whatever. Which, by the way, in manspeak, translates to you being an unemployed bum. You don't get any reward for that.
Okay, this is very revolutionary for the time, calling out housewives and tradcons, right? So this is why Barbarossa was important historically to the evolution of male thought, right?
Go get rewarded over there simply for having a vagina by pathetic, groveling sycophants pretending to be MRAs elsewhere. Go do that elsewhere, because over here, darling, you will receive no such treatment. You will learn to respect male authority here. And I'm not talking about your fallacious traditionalist, you pay my bills and I'll pretend to defer to your authority, oh great provider and protector. I'm talking about men are talking, so sit down and shut up and observe. Observe when men are talking. And after that, make yourself useful and go tell women what they're doing wrong instead of lecturing us on our tone. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's better to, I think it's better to ridicule these people, these little concerned trolls. Let's just make a game out of it. Let's make a point system out of it. Pissing off, used up, over the hill, we are the world concerned trolled women with YouTube accounts currently running the MRA attention whore circuit, that's 100 points. Getting those women to break down and renounce the men's movement altogether and you know, go back to the atheism community trailing concentrated liquid butthurt all the way back, that's 500 points. Getting mangina MRAs to agree with them and drone on and on about how we men going their own way are just like the feminists, after which they run to their insignificant little blog to see which one of them can white knight the hardest. That's 1,000 points. And last but not least, gentlemen, getting both left-wing egalitarian MRAs and right-wing defeat the left retards to cooperate and launch attacks against men going their own way when they're supposedly so different from each other and so diametrically opposed. That's the big score, gentlemen, for a clean 2,500 points. Now, with all that said, I generally...
So, left-wing male advocates subreddit it's basically full of trad cons who want to repair relationships. So they're not domestically opposed to trad con MRAs. They're the same. They're more opposed to us, the pro male collective, the real men's rights movement. We're the real men's rights movement.
I'm being sarcastic here, but in all seriousness, I don't want actual hardworking MRAs doing good work to think I'm attacking them, because I'm not. I'm not. But I will define specifically right here and now, just so there's no mix-up over this, what an MRA is or isn't to me, and which MRAs I'm willing to work with and put my full support behind. Now, if you spend more time functioning as a member of a Manospherian Thought Police Committee, consistently bitching and moaning about what some MRA or men going their own way said somewhere, because you think that might ruffle the feathers of women listening in, you're not an MRA. You're a female sensibilities advocate. Your main concern is not to further the rights of men, the rights that have been deprived largely through women pulling levers in voting booths on a massive scale.
No, I disagree with that. Okay, it's women seizing the levers of power in the state apparatus by networking, right? Because there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's lots of organisations, right? And the government's influenced by NGOs and groups and lobbying. It's that. Voting's secondary. Voting's actually not that important. We actually live in a pseudo democracy in the West, right? We live in most democratic countries in the West are a liberal pseudo democracies.
Your main concern is to make sure women feel safe and good about themselves throughout this entire process of male emancipation and liberation. You're here to make sure that none of us get too uppity. You're here to make sure that men don't cry out in rage too loudly because it might scare women, you disgusting, pathetic, stiletto-licking invertebrate. However, if you spend the majority of your time actually trying to get laws changed as an MRA, well, then I embrace you, and I welcome you, and I consider you a comrade in arms, helping to fight a nonviolent cultural and legal war that men at large did not start. And in whatever ways men going their own way and MRAs can work together, I'm happy to help, as long as you respect the differences in approach and strategy that we have.
So men going their own way is a nothing burger, right? It's not achieved. It hasn't achieved anything. It will never achieve anything. It's just a ghosting dropout community for deselected men, and it's an ego defense label, right? So, but we didn't know this at the time. Okay, I think I turned against MGTOW like 3 years later, after this video was made.
You know, frankly, one of the reasons that I made it clear that I'm MRA friendly, but not an actual MRA, is because I thrive in a 100% freedom of expression environment. MRAs have to be a bit more measured with what they say, and this is completely normal and fine, considering that they're operating in the political sphere. But these charlatans, devoting what seems to be their entire existence towards censoring men going their own way, are not only going to fail, but they're going to end up having the exact opposite effect. This is one of the many reasons why men going their own way is growing pretty much exponentially.
So he doesn't know about the feminist AI censorship that's coming up in a couple of years. It starts around 2016, 2017. That's when it really hit, right? But it got really bad around 2001, right? I'm not sure we could call it AI censorship back then, but the algorithm was turning against feminists, right? Okay, so men's rights content and MGTOW content would soon get blocked or suppressed.
This is why men going their own way is so popular. The more you squeeze us, the more popular we will become. The more you squeeze us, the more you try to censor us, the more we're going to grow. I remember when this whole, left-right nonsense started popping off, and people started calling us radicals and misogynists and leftists and nihilists and all that.
So the stuff that's the pro-male collective has been called. Can you see the pattern of behaviour here? Especially the misogynists label. That gets thrown at extremists and radicals. That gets thrown at us all the time. I see like threads on the men's rights Reddit talking about us, attacking us and calling us out, right?
When all that first started, if you'll notice, I was trailing some of these people My channel was, I'll say, relatively new, but about the same age as all these people making these accusations. But I was trailing some of these people by 2,000, 3,000 subscribers. Then they started all this, and I started saying, you know what, fuck trying to sound nice to these people, and fuck this ridiculous left right nonsense that hasn't actually achieved anything for men or rectified any of the legal injustices we face. Fuck all this. I'm going to go deeper, and I'm going to see how far the rabbit hole descends. And here we are today, and the situation as it stands now is that I've exceeded these people now by thousands of subscribers, one of the fastest growing channels. And of course, Stardust came along, and he's growing just as fast. So squeeze us all you want.
So Barbarossa gave up on MGTOW and he just dropped out. Okay, so
Squeeze us all you want. You're going to have the exact opposite effect.
so MGTOW ended up as a nothing burger, unfortunately or unfortunately, right? I'm sort of glad it died off because it had the wrong mindset anyway. It wasn't going to achieve anything for men's rights. But the fact that we're facing the same problems in the men's rights community is bad. Okay, it's very, very bad. And we have to do something about it. We've got to grow our own spaces. And eventually we've got to grow and influence so many people that we take their spaces over and make them agree with us, right? And we become the men's rights movement in totality. And these losers that we're dealing with now become the fringe. And we exile them, right? And then, once we've done that, we can organise, then we can fight against feminism and we can fight against misandry. Yeah? And then we can start getting victories in one or two countries, small victories and bigger victories. And then we can set precedents. And then we make an international men's movement. But this is a long way off. We need an international men's movement like international communism or something like that. Right? Because it needs to be because feminism is an international hate movement. It's the most global hate movement to ever exist in world history. So we need a global movement to fight them. Okay? So I was just putting this video in historical context, and I just wanted to point out the fact that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Right? So, over and out.